40 years ago, Andy Mitchell started a new version of his band with Austin Hornbrook, John Falcini, Richard Morn, and various down-and-out Barnet musos, destined for unambiguous failure. At least as far as any major notoriety or financial gain was concerned. However, with many line-up changes that always seem to include core members Andy, Austin, John, and from 1986 Neil McDougall, the band had lots of adventures, some of them fun, and in the end produced lots of music. Lots and lots of music. Some of which made it into recordings over the years, including Andy the Atheist's strange fascination with Christmas that resulted in the 2022 album A Global Carol. More info about this can be found in another self-congratulatory video lurking on YouTube somewhere. After this, one of Andy's next projects was to revive a 30-year-old 2-inch master tape that had bestrode a corner on a dusty shelf in his studio. This being the last remnant of the band's very first attempt at an album. Released in 1989, Less is More featured 4 old recordings and 7 newly recorded tracks, with additional members Sam Kelly of Simandy fame on drums, Rami Ramon, later to become Andy's brother-in-law, on bass. Nice bit of presumptive nepotism there. Katrina McDougall, and Lee Andrews helping out on BVs, and Steve and John. They sort of did some brass stuff. Now this embryonic foray into the LP had never entirely satisfied the guys, particularly as all the keyboards were done on that hideous article of 80s-ness known as the M1. So as a bit of a laugh, Mitchell decided to transfer the tracks off the tape and have a go at creating something new, and yet old. The first thing was to extract the tracks, a less catchy version of Bomb the Bass. He took this tape to the lovely Airedale Studios near a certain famous Victorian detective's gift store, and discovered that, like many master tapes of this era, it was a sticky, gooey mess that gummed up the pristine multitrack. Tape lasts forever? Bollocks it does. So off to the kiln went the unglued thing. And yes, they baked it good and hard. The tracks were retrieved, and the tape went into the recycling, which in turn went into landfill. Now the fun could really begin, and I use this term in the loosest way possible. So to begin with, some of the first things to do was to sort out some of those pesky keyboard parts, and this was done at Ernie McCone's Boogie Back studio in Muswell Hill, which is a veritable treasure trove of antique keyboards. It's Roger Waters' bedroom, or the standard keyboard stack of a Rick Wakeman tour. Aged regressive rock references can be sought on Google for those watching who don't know what a landline is. There was a Hammond, and Rhodes, and hurly-gurly-whirlies, all of which people of a certain age can swear that they can tell the difference from a perfectly good sample. But they do sound better. They do, all right. They also got the legendary Jodie Lynn Scott to add her first bit of percussion on the tracks, as percussion had not yet made its way into the general mix of things in those early days of the band, apart from Andy assaulting people with his rhythmically challenged tambourine playing. So, some people might not be aware of this, but one of the reasons albums were much shorter than today's opuses were due to the restriction of vinyl and tape. Vinyl could pretty much only work with about 20 minutes either side due to the restriction of groove width, which is why those top-of-the-pops pretend hit albums from the 70s tend to sound like they were recorded through a transistor radio, as they tried to cram loads more tracks than was feasible. This is also where you find the obligatory ballad tended often to end albums in them days, as they were thought to have less bass on the tracks for the teeny-weeny circles at the end of the disc. Tape was also limited, and you could manage about 4 or 5 tracks if you weren't Mike Oldfield or Genesis, who probably got the first verse on each tape. Anyway, this left the guys with a problem. With only 4 songs, this was going to be a pretty short album. So the real excuse for all of this was to get back in the studio and dredge up some of the other songs, most of which had only been given a rather reduced production, with the dreaded M1 and Andy warbling. So, on to a pretty hot day, bloody global warming. Andy, Austin, Neil and two new recruits, Ernie McCone, yeah, him again, on bass, and Michael Connolly, found themselves in the luxurious and air-conditioned environment of No. 3 Abbey Road Studios, and they did commence battle, putting down the rhythm tracks of 5 additional songs. You said time wasn't right to stop the... The following day had a stellar selection of horn players, and under the direction of the fabulous Simon Finch, they did blow hard and long. Okay, so this is getting somewhat expectedly X-rated sounding cliched gags at these very fine players' expense. They were really very good. See? So Andy decided he needed some more singers on the first full-on version of Devil's Hymn.
Take the Lamb of God to my Lord, may his body save him. What the difference is.
So many singers, in fact, that he had to decamp to No. 2 studio to fit them all in. Jodie doing her thing.
Okay, and I've got 2 tambourines, so one. Okay.
And Vanessa and Sarah adding to the original tracks. So the last bit of Andy's verbalising in No. 3 again. As mentioned, there were several projects going on. Then the main event, Neil. Always a ham. In this final tranche of recording sessions, several people who can read music as fast as horn players came in, and Andy did his best to create the Mitchell Philharmonic. Unfortunately, with Andy's jerry-built Logic parts, things took slightly longer.
Sorry. It's because...
Due to the fact Mitchell had several projects going on, it took a while before he warbled into the mic over the newly reconstructed track.
I made it right, but don't you feel so strong? One goal and I made it right, but maybe a bad it. One goal and I made it right. I don't know. Life, love, and liberty, you say you give to me. Why can't I not be free? I'm told you get the means. The storm is upon us from small. The dreams we made must be forsaken for our homes on the shore. my darling, will sing your praise. Lord of love, oh the Lord of sin.
So, as we already heard, Sarah and Vanessa had been drafted in, buried in the depths of the gatehouse. It was now founding member John Falcini's go, with Andy assisting. Well, anyway, he was there as well.
I don't. And then, I don't.
Are we going to make it a
Yeah.
tune?
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, I think we'll do that. We're
don't.
going to make it a tune, so we'll do it one more time, please.
So finally it came to Gordon to work his magic,
We actually do something.
You can hear the depth of the sound of the pounding with your republic.
and for Andy to sit in the comfy chair.